Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
My son passed away 2 years ago, so I didn't want to lose that.
As thousands of British Columbians prepare to flee wildfires,
I don't know what they're waiting for. We have villages burning up.
Others ask why the province hasn't yet declared a state of emergency. Also,
stressful, sad sometimes.
families separated by the U.S.-Canada border closure see some hope as it may reopen in mid-August to fully vaccinated Americans. And
I have stage 4 cancer, so I want my daughter home.
We are literally being held against our will.
a BC family's fight to reunite in time across an ocean.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Anita is away tonight. More crews are on their way to our province to help fight an early and fast-growing wildfire season. More than 300 blazes are burning across British Columbia. 30 could pose threats to people and animals. And tonight, lots of properties are under an evacuation order or alert. Officials say reinforcements are on their way, but the fear is that won't be enough. Calls are growing for the province to declare a state of emergency. But as the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports, the province is getting some outside help.
My son passed away 2 years ago, so I didn't want to lose that.
Ken Ledoux's most precious belongings packed for a quick escape. He's learned from experience. 4 years ago, this out-of-control fire came dangerously close to this area. Now, the village is caught between 3 major fires and is under an evacuation alert.
But I'm just kind of worried about this stuff here. If all that thick sagebrush or whatever lit up, I wouldn't be 30 seconds, I'd be out of here. So it wouldn't take long to burn out.
With more than 300 fires burning, Cache Creek's fire chief wonders why the province hasn't yet declared a state of emergency.
It's 5 times worse this year than 2017, and I don't know what they're waiting for. We have villages burning up and people evacuated all over, and I'm not sure what's going on there.
The Premier says he is prepared to make the call, just not yet.
There is not one advantage at all from calling a state of emergency except to bring more people together.
Not so, says the fire chief.
I think it would be a huge world of difference. They could bring resources in. We have operators and stuff just sitting with their equipment.
Hundreds are out of their homes, thousands ready to bolt. Road closures and so much smoke.
Having me a pie out of there, that would be so great.
The fires are also carving a big slice out of business.
With roads being closed, we're losing revenue, we're losing our customers being able to come to our markets.
Temperatures remain high, the risk of fire extreme, and there are fears lightning could spark more fires. And while there's some rain in the forecast, the Wildfire Service says it isn't enough.
Unfortunately, at this time, it would take a considerable amount of precipitation across the province to have any significant impact.
And so, for Ken Ledoux and thousands of others, nothing to do but wait, watch, and worry.
If you just look over my shoulder, you'll see a lot of smoke that's actually coming from the Sparks Lake fire. That's the biggest fire currently burning in the province. And one of the reasons we have so many of these air quality advisories right now in the province. Now, help is on the way. Today, 20 Quebec firefighters arrived. And on Saturday, next Saturday, 100 firefighters from Mexico are expected to join the fight. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Savannah.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast. Joe, we got some rain. Has it made any difference?
Not much, Dan, especially when we look at the big picture. This is really just a blip, but I do want to show you what rain does do. So let me take you to the wildfire danger rating yesterday. Widespread extreme danger. That means existing fires continue to grow rapidly and new fires run away quickly. This is today's fire danger rating. And the north did get some rain. Notice the fire danger dropping down to moderate, even some pockets of low. That does not mean fires are out in that area, but it does mean it slows the growth and slows the growth of new fires. But look at the rest of the province, still under high to extreme. And this is what we were worried about, the lightning strikes. That circulating low just off the coast of Haida Gwaii is pushing up bands of moisture and lightning, and we are seeing dozens and dozens of them tonight in the Prince Prince George, Caribou, and Chilcotin region, where we do have some of our biggest fires. Here's the rainfall accumulation map through to Sunday afternoon. We'll see a few more bands of rain tomorrow. So central and northern sections, you can see getting a good soaking. It's the, again, Chilcotin and Caribou region that rain really isn't matching the winds and the lightning that we're getting. And lastly, notice the southeast, Dan, that is completely dry. No rain forecast for the Kamloops or the southeast fire regions, and lightning strikes are still a concern over the weekend. So just a slight blip in the forecast. I'll take you through the long range and take a look at our chance of rain coming up in a bit, Dan.
Okay, thanks very much, Joe. Well, if you looked up, the sky over the West Coast was treated to a special visitor today, the Canadian Forces Snowbirds. Take a look. And a listen as well. The soaring spectacle was out of appreciation to healthcare workers for their work in the last year with the pandemic. The airshow team buzzed over a dozen hospitals across the Lower Mainland. The flyby done at just about 1,000 feet with an F-18 escort. And it's to finish their Operation Inspiration campaign started last year. That was halted after the tragic crash of a snowbird in Kamloops that last May that killed Captain Jen Casey. Ottawa plans to reopen the Canada-U.S. border to fully vaccinated Americans by mid-August. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau shared this timeline during a meeting with the premiers last night. And as Susanna De Silva explains, families who've been separated are cautiously optimistic.
They just drove up just now. And yeah, another one's from Phoenix.
It's a big family reunion. In this park, one of the only places border rules somehow haven't applied. That's become the living room for families divided by the 49th parallel.
We've done Mother's Day on the border. We've done summers at the border here at the park.
Marie Faluc lives in Canada, her sons and their families in the U.S. And today's visit includes meeting her great-granddaughter for the first time after what has been a tough year.
Stressful, sad sometimes.
The quiet announcement last night that the border may reopen mid-August to fully vaccinated Americans is promising news for families like this, but many questions remain, like what kind of proof will be needed.
The problem is, I have a vaccination card. It's not very official. It's something that, from what I can look at, can be easily forged or copied. So I don't know how the Canadian border officers are going to be able to check to see whether someone has a valid vaccination card or not.
The U.S. has also not reciprocated with any promises of reopening to fully vaccinated Canadians. And what about kids who can't be vaccinated yet? Josie Stacy has been coming here every weekend with her daughter to meet her American girlfriend and her son.
If they enforce vaccinations to cross, then I'm kind of stuck either way.
Then, of course, there are surging cases in the U.S.
We may have the emergence of a new variant that is not as responsive to vaccines, and that would be a huge problem for us.
All these things leave doubts about the timing, a challenge for businesses like the duty-free shop that has been closed since the pandemic hit.
We definitely need a lead time from the government, with a definite lead time, so that we can plan, and also for the hiring of staff.
And it leaves families like this one worried family game time won't be changing locations anytime soon.
I don't trust them. I don't believe them anymore.
The federal government says it hopes to have more details next week. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Surrey.
The number of eligible adults in our province who are fully vaccinated continues to climb, now over 53%. But the number of people who've had their first dose is all but stalled, just over 80%. 45 new confirmed cases have been recorded today, and thankfully, no one has died from the disease in BC in the past 24 hours. Still with borders, Australia took one of the hardest border positions during the pandemic. But some residents say the measures have gone too far, forcing many who want to leave to stay. Our Joe Ballard has the story of a Canadian woman who was stuck in Australia trying to get home to her dad before it's too late.
When Cheryl Joy found out her father's cancer had become terminal, she knew she had to get back home to BC. But the Australian government wouldn't let her leave.
As a Canadian citizen, I can't even say, I'm leaving Australia, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, we are literally being held against our will.
In Australia, nobody is allowed to enter or leave the country without permission in the form of an exemption. and there's no guarantee applications will be approved. Joy applied under compassionate grounds. Her request to return home with her children denied.
I'm so stressed. Like, I can't eat. I got sent home from work because I couldn't stop crying.
Despite sending more than a dozen documents, including a letter from her father's doctor explaining the prognosis, the Australian Border Force denied the request, claiming she didn't prove her dad was really her dad.
I have stage 4 cancer, so I want my daughter home. I want my grandson home. I want my granddaughter home. So, and I want them home while I can still walk and do some, and do that sort of thing.
The entire experience stressful on the whole family.
We're all missing them up here. We just want to see them and hold them and hug them.
The Australian Border Force declined to comment, but within hours of the CBC reaching out, Joy received a call that her application had now been approved.
I'm so happy. I'm so relieved. I just feel like a massive weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
But the frustration is still strong. Joy says the measures are infringing on people's human rights, and the quick reversal shows how Australian officials are arbitrarily deciding who gets to leave the country. And her story isn't unique. Online, there are Facebook groups dedicated to this issue, one with more than 47,000 members. Many people stuck in a country that won't let them leave.
I feel really sad for the other people who are in the same situation that, maybe haven't been as vocal and they've kind of just accepted what their response has been.
Resolution for Joy, but not for everyone. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
Vancouver's 10th homicide victim of the year has now been identified. It is Luis Rosas Sáenz. Officers surrounded an area near Southwest Marine and West 57th after receiving reports of 3 men in the street, one holding a knife, around 6:30 Saturday morning. They found Sáenz had been stabbed. He was rushed to hospital and later died. Investigators are asking anyone with dash cam footage between the area from 6 a.m. to 7 to call them. Vancouver police also say 2 men and a young offender have now been charged with human trafficking of underage girls, and they believe there may be more victims and witnesses.
This does happen all over Vancouver, all over the province, all over the country. So it is quite alarming. It is the harsh truth, but that this stuff does happen. They will continue to investigate and really do want anybody that recognizes these men to come forward.
Elkan Vizigero and Miaz Nur Eldin, as well as a young offender, have all been charged. Police are urging anyone who is a victim or has information about this case to contact them. Investigators believe the girls were recruited and trafficked online and in person for several months. Surrey RCMP are investigating anti-Muslim graffiti in Newton.
These incidents started on July 5th. Our latest incident was reported to us on July 14th. We're working with the community to identify individuals who are responsible for this graffiti.
The anti-Muslim vandalism was found on a trash bin, on businesses, and a utility pole near a mosque. Police believe they are connected to the same person or group of people. Anyone with information on this case is asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers. We are just a few weeks into summer, and we've already seen the devastating effects climate change is having here in BC. So to address that, the Premier has announced a new centre to escalate the creation of provincial green technologies.
That will mean focusing on investments in new companies that are starting green hydrogen, biofuels, renewable natural gas, battery technologies, and all of the innovations we're going to need to meet the challenges of our time.
The province, federal government, and Shell Canada have each committed $35 million to the project. The nonprofit is set to open in the fall and will operate independently of government. A BC teenager is the subject of a new documentary film launching today. It follows his life as he navigates being a twin, an adopted child, and being trans. As the CBC's Michelle Gassoub shows us, he hopes sharing his story will help other youth struggling to find their identities.
That's how I do it, yeah, that's how I do it.
Levi Naherney lives the life of an average 19-year-old. But his story has been unconventional from the start. He and his twin sister were adopted from Vietnam when they were 7 months old and grew up on the North Shore. Naherney was born female, but almost always knew he was a man.
I was always different from the other girls, but I didn't really know what that was until I was about maybe 10 or 11 when I had access to the internet and figuring stuff out for myself.
A new film has documented his transition and search for acceptance.
The society says just stop being trans.
As well as his search for himself.
This is my voice a day before tea. It's been 6 months on testosterone.
This is my voice 4 years and 2 months on tea.
The film also documents the twins' journey to adjust their relationship to each other.
He used to be a girl, he used to have those feminine features, and now he has more masculine features. Is that what people see of me? Do I have broad shoulders now?
And to find their birth parents in Vietnam, where they had to explain why 2 little girls moved to Canada, but a daughter and son returned.
They didn't know what it was, and there was no word in Vietnam for being transgender. So it was very difficult to tell them that I was transitioning into being a boy.
Start of transition, how many names did you have?
I only had 2.
I just remember.
Yeah, it was Jason, and then it was
Jason,
Levi.
Jay, and then Levi.
We raised Jasmine. We couldn't use that name anymore. And trans people, trans kids say that's my dead name. So that person is dead. So that's tough as a parent.
Naherny hopes the film will educate.
It's okay to feel scared, throughout this transition. It's going to be, this transition is not going to be easy whatsoever.
And be a comfort to those struggling with their identity.
Emotionally and physically, you, through some of the parts, you're going to feel disgusted with yourself. And you need to just remember that this feeling that you have right now is only temporary.
Levi Becoming Himself premieres across Canada today. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
And you can watch Levi Becoming Himself on CBC Gem, available on demand anytime, and that streaming service is free for everyone. And a reminder, you can always watch this newscast live on CBC Gem as well, the free app, also where you can find a bunch of other CBC programs. CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. With news about reopening the U.S. border, a big worry is rising cases of COVID in the south. Why the U.S. is seeing a surge after this. Thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. If you can see her, you can be her. That's what one Manitoba teenager wants to remind us all about diversity in sport and how important it is that all people feel encouraged to get involved. The CBC's Sam Sampson met her on the basketball court to hear about the message she hopes will stick.
We're here in Steinbach, Manitoba with 15-year-old Ayesha Badiola. We are here at the courts, the basketball courts at the middle school. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we're here to talk about the stickers that you've made, and I actually have one on right now. What does it say?
It says diversity matters.
Okay, and you've got the her in diversity. Why did you want to make these stickers?
Well, I wanted to make them because I believe that it's important to have just representation in sports, and I feel very passionate about it because of some things I've seen and things I've read. So I think to see her is to be her, and we need that representation.
Let's talk about that. Why do you personally feel connected to get more women and BIPOC women in sport?
Yeah, so growing up in the Philippines, I didn't really have anyone to look up to. None of my mom didn't play basketball, my aunts, I didn't have any female role models. So when I got here, I saw Kate Furness, who is a TSN reporter, and she does sideline for the Raptors, and that's how I became interested in sports media.
Is that one of your goals, is to get in broadcasting and sports?
Definitely.
So let's talk about the stickers. You created them to raise money for some groups. Tell me about the groups that the money's going to.
Yeah, so I'm donating a portion of proceeds to 2 organizations. One is called Collective Society 360, and another is called Lead Through Sport. So Collective, they raise awareness and support BIPOC youth in their careers, and Lead Through Sport, they support women in sports and girls in sports because we need them.
Absolutely. So with the upcoming Olympics, clearly a basketball fan here, what are you looking forward to seeing?
The basketball action, especially in the women's side. I've fallen in love with the WNBA recently. It's been so fun to watch, especially just the All-Star game. That was so entertaining. And also tennis. Even though Bianca isn't playing, she kind of pulled out, but I'm so excited for the tennis action as well.
What do you hope to inspire in Manitobans, potentially like someone like yourself or someone who's just getting into sports with the Diversity Matters stickers? What are you hoping people think about when they see the stickers or wear them?
I hope they just, become inspired and just become inspired to lift others up and also just support women in sports because that's what we really need right now.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
That is 15-year-old Ayesha Badiola. You can get the Diversity Matters stickers online on her social media accounts.
Back to one of our top stories tonight, and news that the border may reopen to fully vaccinated Americans come August. You're looking at a live shot of the Ambassador Bridge linking Windsor and Detroit. No two border cities have as close a relationship as they. The skyscrapers of the Motor City tower over its smaller Canadian neighbor. Residents on both sides are eager for a return to some kind of normal. But as the CBC's Sanjay Maru reports, some are hesitant to get their hopes up.
We're gonna go out for food first, definitely, and just try and do all those little things that we haven't been able to do in a really long time together.
Since Jenny Foreman moved into this apartment back in January, things have been fairly quiet. Because of the ongoing border closure, her American boyfriend has yet to see this place in person, and the most recent extension of the border closure in July, she says, was unexpected and devastating.
I think it was partially on me for getting my hopes up, but it was absolutely crushing to hear another month on top of everything else.
As the federal government targets allowing fully vaccinated Americans to enter Canada as soon as next month, Foreman's trying to manage her expectations this time around. So is her boyfriend, who lives in Royal Oak, Michigan.
Maybe a little bit skeptical. I know Trudeau really wants a very high percentage of people fully vaccinated. So I'm hoping it's open in August, maybe August 21st, but it could be September.
As we reopen our borders, we need to do it in a way that doesn't make us more vulnerable to the introduction of new variants.
Chute says it's still unclear how effective vaccines are against variants of COVID-19, and transmission is still a risk since vaccination doesn't provide complete protection against infection. The key, she says, is to continue testing travelers who enter Canada well after the border opens up again.
Because that's going to be our earliest signal, assuming that we have the introduction of a new concerning variant. The first sign of that is going to be, in travelers.
The U.S. doesn't just start skyrocketing in Delta numbers. We got a chance to see each other.
Well, we'll see.
And for Foreman, all she can do now is wait, hoping that the federal government's target of a mid-August reopening actually rings true, so that talking to her boyfriend like this
is a bummer,
is a thing of the past, and she can get back to the little things like taking a photo together and sharing some hugs. Sanjay Maru, CBC News, Windsor.
Adding to these challenges, millions of Americans still have not been vaccinated. Some are not convinced they need it. Just others keep putting it off. Katie Simpson spoke with a woman who knows how horribly that can turn out.
Young him, like the 70s, and he had long hair.
When Michelle Preisler looks at her husband Daryl's life in pictures, it is a devastating reminder her husband won't be at her side for any more family memories.
It's very painful. But I can't go there. See, I'm not supposed to go there. But that's grieving, so grieving's really hard.
Michelle says her husband got COVID at a family wedding in April and died a month later. Vaccines were available at the time, but Daryl kept putting it off as he was busy with work, and he worried about side effects because of medication he was on at the time.
And I know that if my husband would have gotten that vaccine, he'd still be here. And he's not here, and he's not coming back. So if anybody can learn from this, what I'm going through, please learn.
Last month in Maryland, 130 people died of COVID. None of them had been vaccinated. What's happening here is part of a much larger national trend. Nearly all new COVID hospitalizations and deaths are among individuals who've not had their shots.
There is a clear message that is coming through. This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
After weeks of declines, daily cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are all on the rise in the U.S.
Every patient who wheels through our ICU door basically is an unvaccinated person who ends up regretting that decision.
Michelle is doing what she can to cope with her regret.
I can't even think of the good times because that hurts me because there aren't any more coming. Yeah, we had so much fun in our life together. And I will think of them later on. I can't do it right now.
The one thing she can do, she says, is hope her husband's story can spare another family from the pain she's in. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Pasadena, Maryland.
Major League Baseball is going to return to Canada. Yes, the Blue Jays are flying home.
It's been a long time since we've seen the Jays play on home turf, but we're really happy to be able to welcome them back home on July 30th.
Ottawa has approved the team's request, giving it a national exemption to return to the Rogers Centre. The plan includes pre- and post-arrival testing of everyone crossing the border and more testing 4 times a week for those who are unvaccinated. The Jays' first home game in Toronto will be July 30th. The day after a tornado cut a trail of destruction in Barrie, Ontario, people there are taking stock of what's left. The twister touched down yesterday afternoon with little warning, packing winds of up to 210 kilometers an hour. Ellen Morrow is on the ground in Barrie with the latest.
We are in one of the worst affected areas here in Barrie, and just take a look at the damage here. This is just one house. So many sustained damage like this. That tree completely knocked over. Look behind it. That van, the back window blown out. And if my cameraman Chris just pans up to the house there, you can see the windows completely smashed out by the power of this storm. An EF2 tornado, winds up to 210 kilometers an hour. And you can see here an emergency response truck. I don't think this is a hydro truck or some other cleanup truck. Those efforts have been going on throughout the day here, trying to just get a sense of all of this damage. Take a look down the street here as well. You can get more of a sense of just the power of this storm. And you see residents sitting there outside of their homes. That's what a lot of them are here doing today, just only beginning to really understand the extent of the damage. More than 100 homes were damaged in this storm, dozens now completely unlivable. Again, take a look here, trees completely knocked over, and the roof of that home there completely torn off. We spoke to its owner earlier today.
It was pretty traumatic for me and my partner. You know, we were both upstairs when it happened. She's the one who noticed. You know, what was kind of going on outside at that point. She grabbed our dog, grabbed myself, and we made it down to our, you know, started making our way down the staircase.
Must have been terrifying realizing the storm was coming and just sheltering as quickly as you could in your basement.
Yeah, once we got down to the basement, for sure, we just kind of tried to buckle in and recognize what was happening. And then we tried to surface to make some phone calls.
And we've heard so many stories like that. Residents who were here when the storm tore through this neighborhood yesterday afternoon, sheltering in their homes, fearing for their lives. There were several people brought to hospital, but despite how bad the damage is in this neighborhood devastated along certain stretches of streets, many of the people that we've spoken here today have said they're just grateful that it wasn't worse. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Barrie, Ontario.
An inspirational garden has sprung up in downtown Montreal. It has a simple, powerful theme: Indigenous people reclaiming their land. As Rowan Kennedy reports, the garden is also part of an art exhibit.
Cece Weiss comes from a long line of gardeners, and she says the plants she grows have a strong connection to her culture.
So these ones are tobacco, and tobacco is not something we consume in our body.
Weiss is Squamish from British Columbia. Her people use tobacco as offerings. Weiss, who has been creating urban gardening exhibits for 20 years, was invited to Montreal by Momenta Biennale to work on this one. The organization says the garden, called Tianhenkwen, is a part of their fall exhibits on nature, and they wanted to give a voice to the Indigenous artists.
It's really important for us to actually give space to people that are the landowners, that are the people that were here first.
When she arrived, Weiss built a team of Mohawk community members. After all, she says, this is their unceded land. The design reflects a wampum, a Mohawk belt pattern and symbol which means one dish, one spoon, meaning all living things nourish from the same source. In other words, Weiss says the garden is open to the community, even the bees, and definitely this volunteer.
And biodiversity is key to the natural world. It is key to life, actually. Our ceremonies and our customs are inseparably tied to the land. So we need to be on the land to keep those customs alive.
Weiss hopes the garden can become a beacon of hope for urban Indigenous cultures. In September, Momenta will be hosting classes here about that culture for the public. Rowan Kennedy, CBC News, Montreal.
BC's wildfires are not just affecting our province. How Alberta is now dealing with smoky skies. That's next.
They're adding up the damage in the British Columbia forest fires. Flames still threaten communities in the southeast corner of the province, but firefighters remain hopeful they're winning the battle. Now the people who live and work in the East Kootenays have more problems. How to revive the lumber industry and the tourist trade. Catherine Wright has this report.
After spending $10 million in this area and $2 million right here, firefighters are finally making progress. What they call the ram fire is still burning furiously, but they think they're going to beat it.
And if we can sort of hold things together for another couple of days, we might be okay, I think.
While these remedial actions are being taken, the risk is just as imminent.
That's because lightning still could ignite these woods and fires could start again.
Just going in to see Dad, are you? Yeah, take some stuff back.
So the evacuation order for the town of Canal Flats hasn't been lifted yet. Still, a few more people are going home.
The mood seems to be that they can come back in with no problem.
And can they?
I don't know.
Now they'll start assessing the damage. Damage to the local lumber industry, the most important industry here. It employs 2,000 people. With over 400 square kilometers of burnt-out timber, there could be a loss of jobs. And damage to the tourist trade. It's the second most important industry, worth about $150 million a year. Already, business has dropped 30%. But the government is going to help with an advertising campaign.
You may have heard a lot of reportage about fires, but please take another look.
And the skies are helping too. They're sending rain. Probably not enough to drown the fires, maybe enough to ease the tension. When the dust finally settles here, people will be asking a lot of questions. One of them is whether the Provincial Forestry Department is equipped to handle such enormous fires. It took 10 days before firefighters got a grip on things. It took almost a full week before they became properly organized. As each day passed, more and more fires raged out of control, killing millions and millions of trees, an unknown amount of prime timber. Some people say what's really needed is a kind of firefighting SWAT team, a group of highly trained, highly organized specialists that can move in quick and beat the flames before they get too big. After all, the trees are British Columbia's most valuable natural resource. Catherine Wright, CBC News, in the East Kootenays, British Columbia.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight for you on CBC Vancouver News.
Arts Lake, that other one over there is Ashcroft. There's one down by Lytton there too, so these two right here are pretty close. So.
Many British Columbians are basically surrounded as wildfires burn across the province. People in almost 3,000 properties have been forced to leave, and nearly 14,000 more are on evacuation alert. Help is coming from back east and from the south, but others are pushing the province to declare a state of emergency.
If they enforce vaccinations to cross, then I'm kind of stuck either way. So
people have lots of questions about how it will work that the U.S.-Canada border may reopen in mid-August to fully vaccinated Americans. Families are eager to see loved ones after more than a year apart, but others wonder what kind of vaccine proof they will need.
So happy. I'm so relieved. I just feel like a massive weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
And a BC woman living in Australia will get to come home to see her sick father. Cheryl Joy has been trying to get here to reunite with her dad after his cancer turned terminal. The Australian government wouldn't let her leave because of its harsh COVID restrictions. But after CBC News reached out, Joy says she was told her application to come home has been approved. Much of the smoke from the wildfires in BC is drifting east. It's especially intense in northern Alberta right now, where haze from BC is blending with smoke from wildfires in Saskatchewan. Paige Parsons shows us how it's become a threat of its own.
Deborah Ward gets prepared every year for fire season and the smoke it brings. She has asthma.
It's usually controlled, but with the smoke starts coming in, then I'm upping my inhaler and I'm checking my pulse ox all the time to make sure that my levels are okay. And I'm wearing a mask like this, not so much for COVID these days, but just to help me breathe.
Edmonton, like much of Western Canada, has been blanketed in smoke from wildfires in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, prompting Environment Canada to issue air quality warnings throughout the region. Particles in that haze could be harmful to health, so people are being told to stay indoors as much as possible.
The people at highest risk of getting sick or having an injury from smoke exposure are not just infants and small children, but also anyone with heart and lung disease, and also frail people like the elderly that we need to take into consideration.
Blue Sky Canada pulls data from across Canada and the U.S. to track smoke drifting across the continent. This modeling expert says don't be surprised to see western smoke drift to the other side of the country.
Wildfire smoke can be transported several thousands of kilometers before it's dispersed into the background or settles out by being washed up by rain or being picked up by the ground.
These kinds of unhealthy, smoky summer days are here to stay as wildfire seasons get longer and more extreme, according to the BC Centre for Disease Control.
The most important thing we can do is try to keep the indoor environment cleaner. Most of us spend the vast majority of our time indoors, 90% or more.
For now, Deborah Ward is limiting her time outdoors, but
it's scary knowing what could happen if things get worse.
And with wildfires still burning across Western Canada, it's difficult to say when the air will clear again. Paige Parsons, CBC News, Edmonton.
Heat warnings may have ended for parts of our province, but we remain in the grips of an unprecedented wildfire season. Thousands of people are on evacuation alert as we head into this weekend. Carly DeRosier is with the BC Wildfire Service. She joins us now from Kamloops. Carly, first of all, what areas are you most concerned about in BC?
Hi, Dan. Yeah, so based on the level of activity and the number of wildfires, certainly the Caribou Fire Centre region and the Kamloops Fire Centre region are areas of concern at the moment. However, we are monitoring the entire province as drought conditions range from the southern half of the province all the way to the north. However, we are expecting some precipitation in the north, which will allow us to focus more on the southern half of the province this evening and through the night with potential lightning in the forecast.
We know that crews are doing all they can, although we have heard that they are stretched rather thin. How are they holding up based on what you're hearing from them?
Yeah, so of course, they have a very difficult job, long days out in the heat and the smoke and things like that. For those reasons, we are ensuring that the crew are are safe and well and as taken care of as possible, making sure they're hydrated, that they're getting those breaks. We did see quite an early start to the season, and our based on conditions are expecting kind of a lengthy season. So we want our crews to be able to kind of sustain in the long term. It's just, about prioritizing their health and wellness and safety, and of course those out of province resources that are going to be arriving here in BC within the next week. We have a unit crew from Quebec, and we also have 5 unit crews and some support personnel from Mexico arriving. So that out of province support allows our crews to take those rest breaks that they need to continue to sustain for the long term.
Now, as we look ahead, what can people do, whether they're on evacuation alert, whether they've been asked to leave their homes under an order, or those simply who are not in either scenario? What are the best ways that they can help crews right now deal with these fires?
Yeah, so certainly just being incredibly cautious when out and about, whether that be in the backcountry. We are seeing just with the dry conditions that fires can spark simply from pulling over on the side of the road. A heat from exhaust and things like that can spark roadside fuel. So being especially cautious. Also, it is recommended that people, especially in vulnerable areas, are prepared with an emergency plan for their family with a grab-and-go bag. There's information available from Emergency Management BC and Prepared BC with lists of items to pack in those go bags. Additionally, for those that could potentially be on evacuation order alert, it's really important to know where that accurate and up-to-date information is coming from. That will be from their regional district or their local municipality or First Nation. And additionally, it is important to take those evacuation orders and alerts seriously. Unfortunately, it is incredibly dangerous for personnel that are reluctant to evacuate. So we do really encourage to do the research and to be prepared if that is the case.
Carly DeRosier, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much.
Horrific and historic floods have hit Europe, leaving dozens dead and many more missing. Why it's another sign of our quickly changing climate. That's next. And at 6:41, a live look at the North Shore. That is some rain falling. Good for us here. The clouds have rolled into Metro Vancouver. What does the weekend bring? Joe will tell us next.
About sprint canoe. It's Gary the Unicorn here, because I'm so excited because Katie Vincent is right here beside me. Hello, Katie.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
I am very good. Now, what is the sport that you'll be doing at this year's Olympic Games?
Gary, I am a sprint canoeer.
A sprint canoeer?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Basically, it means I like to go really fast in a boat.
Do you have to have like a motor for that?
I'm the motor. I kneel on one knee, and then I have my paddle, and we take strokes, and we try and go really fast.
Oh, so you're paddling the boat. I have my paddle, you got your paddle.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna straighten your arms.
Straighten my arms.
Rotate your shoulders.
Rotate
just like that. Drop.
And drop.
And then pull. And sit right up. And then do it again.
And you keep doing that?
Yeah.
And how many times do you have to keep doing this?
About 70 times in a race.
That is a lot. I'm already tired, Katie. I don't know if I can make this race. You are gonna win gold! And then we can take your gold medal for a canoe ride.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Gary learns about speed walking. Aloha, everybody. It's Gary the Unicorn here. And right beside me is super duper Olympian Evan Dunphy. Woohoo! Hi, Evan.
Hello.
What sport will you be doing at this year's Olympic Games?
So I do the sport of race walking.
You speed walk?
Yeah, so I walk really, really fast for really long distances. So my race is 50 kilometers long. So when you run, you're basically jumping from step to step. But in race walking, we always have to have one foot firmly planted on the ground.
Okay, Evan, I'm ready. I got my wristbands on. And so what's the first thing I gotta do when I'm doing speed walking?
So you take really, really quick steps.
What do you do with your arms?
So your arms, you're gonna pump them really fast, back and forth, just like that. Perfect. I think you're race ready.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the start line.
You have to time me. Okay,
let me get my stopwatch out here.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
Then we're gonna walk for 4 hours. So that's how long my race takes. 4 hours. You ready?
Okay.
And go. Excellent.
How long have I been now?
That was fantastic. That was 15 seconds.
I have to do this for another, whatever the math is, to make 4 hours?
But I think that was your first time. So I think for your first time, that was really, really good.
Maybe I should take off my sweater. Whew. And I just want to say we wish you the best of luck all the way out there in Tokyo at the Olympic Games.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you'll be watching.
Oh, I will absolutely be watching.
When your backyard is burning, is anywhere safe? I'm Adrienne Lamb, the host of a new podcast, World on Fire. Join us on the front lines of wildfires burning around the world. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
At least 120 people are dead and hundreds are missing amid catastrophic flooding in parts of Europe. Record rainfall has led rivers to burst their banks in Germany, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. Belgium has also been hit hard. Tessa Arcilia has more on the devastation and its connection to climate change.
2 months worth of rain fell in just 2 days, causing devastating floods, the worst seen in decades. As rivers burst their banks, the water came in fast and strong, giving residents no time to escape and leaving staggering damage in its wake. Houses, cars, and people swept away by powerful currents. The worst hit country, Germany. Speaking in Washington, Chancellor Angela Merkel says they don't know how many may have died. Neighboring Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Switzerland have also been affected. Hundreds are still unaccounted for, with some areas completely cut off, leaving residents trapped. This German resident says he felt bad he couldn't help people waving at him from windows while houses were collapsing. Some 15,000 police, soldiers, and emergency service workers have been deployed in Germany to help with search and rescue efforts. Scientists have long warned that human emissions could cause extreme weather patterns that were likely to occur with higher intensity and frequency, putting climate change squarely back on the political agenda. Earlier this week, the EU unveiled its most ambitious plan yet to tackle climate change, challenging the rest of the world to move away from fossil fuels within a decade. But for those whose lives have been left in ruins by the impact of extreme and unpredictable weather, putting a stop to such devastation from ever happening again couldn't come soon enough. Tessa Arcilia, CBC News, London.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with our forecast. Very different here, Joe. We did get some rain, as we said. What's the situation for this weekend and beyond?
Yeah, completely different side of the extreme weather coin. We are 30 days and counting of no rain here on the South Coast, extremely dry conditions. And yes, it's true. The first raindrops fell just about 20 minutes ago. I was shouting at the people on the trail behind me, "Do you feel the raindrops?" It just felt and smelled so good. I forgot, how nice it is just to feel that. Unfortunately, we don't have guarantee of a lot more than that. Let me take you to the radar right now. Funny enough, it's not even showing up on the radar. This is a satellite and radar. The raindrops are so fine. Dan, I think I heard you asking earlier if it was virga, not necessarily touching the ground. And that is true, not all the rain getting down, but there is still hope. that some of you will feel the raindrops overnight and through tomorrow morning. It's a soggy southwesterly flow around that low pressure system that is bringing isolated thunderstorms to the Prince George region tonight. I was just keeping an eye on it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some watches and warnings. So keep your eyes on the skies tonight if you are in the Prince George region. Some of these might push to severe limits. It looks like we are getting some downpours, but that is a lot of lightning strikes that I am seeing. Hundreds, I imagine, before these storms taper off through the overnight. So definitely looking at new fire starts, although we are hoping that it is also coming with some rain in that region. Here's that low. It continues to spin off our coast. It's sort of stuck off our coast through the weekend. As I mentioned earlier, not getting any rain in through the southern interior or the southeast. We are getting some rain on the island, Port Hardy down through to Campbell River, where it is also extremely dry, seeing some showers earlier today. Victoria in the same boat as Vancouver, hoping for even just a whiff of the raindrops because there's not much in the forecast after that. So this low pressure system will really start to taper out on Sunday, and then we see high pressure build back in. Just wanted to show you a quick snapshot. The rest of the country this evening, these are your current temperatures. There is a lot of heat in through the southern prairies. Temperatures looking to get into the high 30s for places like Regina and Winnipeg and even northern Ontario through the weekend. We have heat warnings in place from Alberta through to northern Ontario. So another heat dome building. We are on the edge of this one, though. So our temperatures won't be quite as hot in the southeast, but places like Cranbrook, Osoyoos, you're looking to get into the edge of that heat where we don't have a lot of rain. And then watch Vancouver's temperatures starting to build as we head into Monday again. So just a little blip in the forecast. I've got cooler temperatures right across the province. And for us, Dan, 22s, 23s this weekend, building through early next week. And spoiler alert, I don't see any rain in the forecast through next week. But I'll be searching, even if they are the tiniest of raindrops. We will find them.
We will take them. Thank you, Joy.
Seriously, you're welcome.
Well, a new summer day camp in Montreal is showing kids how to rock out of the shell. And while they explore their untapped talent, their coaches are finding a new appreciation for teaching music. Rowan Kennedy met a few of the people involved.
11-year-old Thomas Traversy goes by Flea. He's the bassist for the band What Are We? They're recording their new single, Cobra Leather Jacket, and he says they're feeling the pressure.
It's just like when we record, it's like last day, we have to do our best, and that's kind of stressful.
He's in his last week of summer camp at the Montreal School of Rock. It's run out of a Verdun music studio, Musico Pratique, where 7 to 17-year-olds form a band and record their own music. The camp's founder came up with the idea a month ago after watching this 2003 movie with his daughter.
At the end of the movie, she was so excited, she was screaming, and she told me, "Dad, show me how to play guitar."
And so he did. She loved it so much, she created a band.
They named themselves Les Rockers de l'Enfer, so the rockers from hell.
Mainville has played guitar in several bands, and he recognizes how playing rock music can help kids come out of their shell.
Rock is energy, it's playing live, playing with confidence.
On Monday, What Are We barely knew each other. Now, the band is writing their own songs. The band's vocalist and drummer is also their camp coach, and he says live shows are hard to come by nowadays, so he's trying something new, teaching kids for the first time.
So I said, okay, yes, why not? And I didn't expect, I really love it, really love it.
Paquin is hoping that shows are possible again soon, and the young stars say that they'll be busking on the street, taking their songs on the road. Rowan Kennedy, CBC News, Montreal.
A group of Métis youth are paddling an iconic Canadian river. The friendships made on Manitoba's Red River. That's next. Stick around.
It's about time that our First Nations people took a lot of this back, and we wanted to make sure that everybody gets an equal opportunity.
I just love to see all our people just get out there
and just show our stuff. Like we can do it too, right?
The program is a stunt workshop. We wanted to get more First Nations people involved in the industry.
It allows us to tell our story more. So, you know, there's a lot of misinterpretation in the film industry, I feel. Also, like, showcase a lot of our talent, athletic ability, and the characters that we kind of represent, and our, you know, our culture.
We all know that sometimes they bring in different actors and actresses from a different ethnic background to play Indigenous people. We've seen First Nations people getting painted red and stuff, and it kind of left a bad taste in our mouths. Way back, I did the old North of 60 series, and that's kind of where Stunt Nations actually originated. A friend of mine, we were sitting on set one day, Nathaniel Arcand, and we thought it would be a good idea to start training people how to do falls and how to do other things and just be in front of the camera. We teach them how to choreograph a lot of fight scenes and falling scenes, falling down, how to fall down properly. And then we also teach them how to control the horse a little bit and how to get a proper shot and how to, if you're gonna, you know, how to commit to the shot. We taught them a lot of camera angles and how to stay within shot.
The intent behind it is just they're doing it for us, and you can really tell. I really, really appreciate it.
I've always wanted to be an actress, not only like an Indigenous actress, but someone who can say like, I can do my own stunts and I'm a woman and I can do my own stunts.
So I think the bigger the group, the more powerful it is. It's a far better opportunity for producers when they come into Calgary or Alberta, whatever, and say, hey, we have a Native show that we're doing. Have you got Native people that can be involved with action or background?
For too long, I think we've been just seen as like feather, you know, period Native people, right? So we're seen in like old westerns and stuff like that. But we need to be seen more in modern, contemporary things. Also, a matter of authenticity. You know, we can be on-hand consultants.
Especially with these workshops now, I think we're going to have more First Nation people out there. It's going to be awesome. I think the next wave's coming for sure. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. Vancouver Queer Film Festival is back. Enjoy the best in independent queer cinema along with workshops, artist panels, Q&As, and more. Learn more at queerfilmfestival.ca. And never miss a special programming series or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver Inbox and keep connected with us.
A dozen Métis youth took out their paddles to take on an iconic Canadian river this week, all in the name of the environment. The youth canoe along the Red River started in Winnipeg this week. They paddled 20 kilometers a day and discovered not only a new appreciation for the river, but unique friendships. Take a look.
Learned a lot about our youth, to be honest. I wasn't sure. Yesterday was a big day for us. It was 18 to 20 kilometers, and they still had smiles on their faces at the end. They've got a lot of resilience in them. I know that there's a lot of bad wraparound youth right now just wanting to stay inside and use screens, but I think that they want to reconnect with the land.
It's been really great, you know. It's a good workout. It's fun, the water's amazing. I was a little scared because I didn't really know what to do, but I caught on really fast, so it was awesome. I'm happy I'm seeing this. I'm glad to explore like my culture and all that.
It's nice to know that there's people like me that I can hang out with and be friends with.
There's something really special about the canoe because canoeing is uniquely Indigenous and it's our own, and it's something that we share amongst a lot of people. As Metis, we canoed, many First Nations canoe, but it's also the vehicle that gets us to be out on the land and the water, and it's a great vehicle to be connected to culture, to language, to harvesting. But that really all connects us back to our identity.
That is our program for this evening. You can always find our news program online at cbc.ca/BC. Our next local news is right here at 11 o'clock with Tanya Fletcher after the National. And we're going to leave you with more of the Snowbirds over our sky with an F-18. Good night.